What's cracking, YouTube? You already know who it is. You already know what time it is. It's Monday, 9 p.m. That means you are in the fishy biz hour. It's busy fish time for the chat to go crazy while people are getting in. How was your Monday? How was your Independence Day? It's July 5th, July 4th. It was going down on my block. I'm talking about they were shooting off some big fireworks this time. Oh, my God. It was ridiculous. So everybody that's in here, Vinny's Aquatics jumped in first. PB Aquatics, my partner, he is, what's up with it, PB? PB's Aquatics just put out a video all in Spanish. I have no idea I have no idea. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get a translator to do that for me. But go check him out if you can understand the Espanol. RB Animals Rescue, what's cracking? RB Muppet just jumped in. Muppet 929, thank you for coming through. Welcome, you guys. Mark, what's cracking, man? Hey, look. We don't have much time. Mark Foote is a fellow teacher and a graduate of U City High, 1998. Out my graduation year, we graduated out of there together, and we got to head back to teaching pretty soon. So we get 1 month to enjoy right now. Jay Watts, my guy down in Texas. I was just playing around in his backyard last week. For those of you guys that saw my trailer, you saw a couple of shots that I took at I was in Galveston and went to the aquarium there. Rico Stan, what's cracking? Thank you for coming through. Mark has 1 week of summer school. Summer school ended for me on Friday. Thank you very much. He's still teaching, he says. Thank you, everybody, for coming through, man. If you would go ahead and throw that like button up or that dislike button up, whatever you feel. Whatever, just do it. Just do it. You already know what it is. So, Larry D, thanks for coming through. I appreciate you. How was everybody's Monday? I think a lot of people had Monday off because, the holiday fell on a Sunday. So a lot of people had Monday off. I know the banks had Monday off because I tried to go to that joint and I forgot all about it. It was definitely closed. So, Michelle Kinsey, thank you for coming through. Listen. While everybody's coming in and letting me know how their Monday went, I know what you guys are here for. A lot of you guys don't even come to see me. You come to see who I putting in the hot spot. Last week was my first premiere. I appreciate everybody for coming through on that. If you didn't check out that premiere, I hope you got a chance to check it out. At the end of that, you saw me at Universal Studios cruising through my favorite movie series, book series. Harry Potter is one of my faves, and I was definitely headed to the ride. That's all I ever wanted to do. But I'll tell you about that later on in the stream if you stick around. It's Jason from Primetime is backstage. I know he's laughing right now because he's definitely heard the story in all its totality, uncensored, and he was pretty much I don't know if he was laughing at me or laughing with me. So, Monster Fish Gal, thanks for popping in. I will bring him up in a minute here. He will be in the hot spot. You guys know the hot spot. It gets hot, and it definitely will. We're going to heat up with Jason from Primetime Aquatics, Crystals, Pets, and Plants. Thank you for coming through. How did everybody Monday went, though? I mean, if you were off, did you get you some downtime? And I know I'm glad that you stuck around tonight to hang out with me so that you can get your work week started off right after you have a little fishy biz in your life. Multiple Aquariums, Diego, how's it going? What's cracking? Thank you for coming through. But yeah, so we're gonna get it rolling. So I just was talking backstage with Jason, and I don't know if he knows what to expect in the hot spot, but we're gonna jump him in and just talk. We're gonna talk fish for a little minute. All of my mods, I like for you to be aware of all questions being asked in the chat. We'll ask some of those at the end. We don't want to keep people here longer than they have to because people got things to do. But we'll definitely get some of those important ones in, and there's nothing else left to do. Hey, one of the smartest men I know in fish keeping I met him at Aquashella for the first time. He has a luxurious beard, and the guy is fit. And I've got a question for him about that fitness too. We about to jump him in right now. Jason from Primetime Aquatics, welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's going to be fun. Now I'm not going to lie, you got me a little concerned about this hotspot thing. The more you talk about it, the more I'm like, oh, what did I sign myself up for? Because you mentioned it, Aquashella, like, yeah, we'll do this fun thing. It's called the hotspot. All right, it's fine.
Yeah, you told me you was never scared, so I don't want to hear it right now.
Yeah, right.
Mr. 3000's in the spot. What's cracking? Jason, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Like I said, the Mondays are crazy. I'm all disheveled because Mondays are me and my boys. We do karate, and we got out of there and we were sparring and beating each other up with all the other people. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we gotta go. We got fishy biz tonight. I got fishy biz. So I basically got out of there. I'm taking off my gi and my belt and throwing my sparring pads in the back of the truck, not even in their bag. The kids are throwing them all over the place, and I've got all mismatched stuff. But we got here, and here we are. So I'm just glad to be here.
Thank you so much.
Hanging out with everybody.
That's what's up. I did Taekwondo for a week and a half.
All right, so you're black
belt. I had my mom pay all that money for me to get an all white gi and white belt, and then I was like, hey, I don't want to do it no more.
And that's the expensive part too, when you get all the uniform and everything going. Like, all right, I'm ready.
Yeah,
I don't know if I like this anymore.
Within the first week, I thought I was going to be turning flips like Bruce Lee. I was going to be doing back flips and crane kicks and everything, and it was like, no, you got to learn how to breathe first. Man, I know how to breathe. Man, look,
I've been alive for like 9 years. I've figured out the breathing.
I did learn an axe kick before I got out of there, so you guys watch out, man.
Nice.
I got a 6'4.5" leg over here.
That's right.
You can't even get it up
at least 6 feet or less.
Oh man. So Jason, I always ask everybody, how long have you been fish keeping?
It makes me sound old, but I got my first fish when I was 6 years old. Little black fancy goldfish that was missing an eye that I just had to have. It was the only black fancy goldfish in the entire tank at the fish store. I'm like, I want that one. I'm a pet store owner. The pet store owner and my mom are both like, are you sure you want that one? I'm like, yeah, I want that one. So I was 6, and that was going on 42 years ago. And I've been keeping fish pretty much nonstop ever since. I think I took maybe a year off when we moved into our house in the early 00s. But other than that, it's been nonstop for the last 4.5 decades.
Man, that's a long time. And I said you're one of the smartest guys in fish keeping, but goodness, you should be. You've got a lot of little experience.
Well, now you got to qualify that because I'm the only guy you know in fish keeping. So.
Oh, okay. Right. Yeah. That's great.
Yeah, it makes a big difference when, like, well, I know 5 guys and 3 of them don't fish keep anymore, so you're the default.
Yeah, that's it. You're default. I remember on the Simpsons episode, Homer Simpson became the friend by default. He's like, default. Love it. I've looked at a tour of your fish room. You've got oh my God, you've got a lot of tanks. So we're going to jump into that. How many tanks exactly do you have?
So right now, it depends. It depends on the time of the year. It depends on how ambitious I get, how much breeding I want to do, how many fish we need to quarantine to go into other tanks, but usually somewhere between 70 and 80. And it wasn't always that way. I mean, for a long time, I think maybe we had like 6 or 8, kind of like a normal multi-fish tank sort of addiction.
Sure.
So we had 6 or 8. Then it just, the coolest thing my wife ever said to me, she's like, a long time ago, she had a craft room in the basement. It took up one whole half of the basement. She's like, I don't like it down there. It's dark. There's spiders down there. All by myself because nobody comes down there. I want to move it upstairs. And I think she thought I was going to give some pushback. So I faked the pushback. And I was like, well, I don't know about this. You're just crafting upstairs. It's kind of you got stuff everywhere. And then the loft is going to look all not neat anymore. She's like, but I don't like it down there. I'm like, all right. So I kind of let it sit for a day. I'm like, all right, I'll make you a deal. if I can put some more fish tanks in the basement and you can put your craft room upstairs, she's like, oh, that's a great deal. I'm not exaggerating. The very next day, I remember it because I was still, because like you, I'm a teacher, so teach at a college. So I was off for the summer. The boys hadn't gone back to school yet.
Okay.
She was at work. Within 8 hours, we had, and her craft area there was a lot there. It was like borderline craft hoarding. We got all of that stuff completely out of the area in the basement and put it up in her new craft room, and I was ready to start the fish room build. So yeah, and then it just took off. And then, like I said, now we got 70 to 80 tanks, and it depends on what we're doing. I think it's going to start heading north again for the fall of 75. It's probably going to get closer to 80 again because we've got a lot of fish that we want to quarantine. We got the swaps coming up, which means more breeding and more grow out and stuff. So
okay, yeah. All right. I'm glad you mentioned that. For the breeding, what was your toughest fish to breed, and contrary to that, what was your easiest fish to breed?
Well, the toughest fish to breed are all the fish in my fishery that won't breed for me. So,
right.
I think that's kind of how it goes. It's like, well, this one's tough because it just doesn't make any babies in the tank. So,
for a fact.
So I generally don't have the time to breed things that require a lot of adjustments or a lot of attention. Sure. So and this is changing now, but historically I've only bred fish that will breed and survive in my tap water. And the water around here, at least in my area, in the Chicagoland area that's coming out of Lake Michigan, has a pretty high pH. It's like a pH of 8. The water hardness is moderately hard, like maybe 10 degrees water hardness. So if the fish will breed in that water,
sure.
So the fish I breed. So it's mostly African cichlids. So I'll answer the second question as what's easy for me to breed. Almost all African cichlids. So peacocks and Buna, sure. All the Lake Tanganyika fish are relatively easy to breed once they get to size. The Lake Victorian. So those are easy. Live bearers, guppies, platies, swords, mollies, Heteroandra formosa, the Florida-least killifish.
Sure.
Bristlenose plecos are really easy to breed. The ones that I have a little bit harder time with in our water are some of the South and Central American cichlids. So things like Severums. They'll breed for me. I don't get a lot of fry survival because I haven't changed water parameters. Bolivian rams will breed. I cannot breed any of like the German blue ram varieties because our water is too hard. The pH is too high.
Yeah.
So once what's changing though is I got a RODI unit. So an RODI unit takes all of the stuff out of the water and you're just left with pure water. So that's going to lower the water hardness. And once you put that water in an established aquarium and let it kind of do its thing with the fish in there, the pH is probably going to go down a little bit. So I'm hoping that I'll be able to breed some of the fish that haven't bred as easily for me, like a pistogramma and the rams and stuff. So I'll get some like the hardier pistogramma, like the cockatoides, the agassiz, they'll breed. But some of the less common ones don't for me. So I'm hoping that's going to change soon.
Okay, and you're in the Chicago area, right?
Yes. Yep.
So yeah, I'm thinking that our water is the same here in St. Louis, very hard. And African cichlids, I don't have a problem with. I started off with them, and I just leave them alone and give them like a little place in the back, and they'll do their due, and you'll see a mouthful of fry.
Right, so, exactly. Yeah.
That's good. When you talk about your water parameters and with 70 to 80 tanks, how do you keep that together? Because I do look to you as the water parameter guy. You definitely know your stuff when it comes to those, but when you get 70 or 80 tanks, do you have a system? Do you have what does that look like? So
our maintenance system. Well, so first of all, I don't maintain our fish tanks. Once we got to a lot of tanks, my two boys who are now 16 and 13, almost 17 and 14 at this point, they've been doing all the tank maintenance for years. So when the three of us would do it together, when we set up a new tank, we kind of establish water changes based on nitrate levels. There are other parameters you could use, but nitrates are the easiest thing to test for, and they're going to be impacted the most by either good tank maintenance or bad tank maintenance. So it's really nitrates. And our goal in non-planted tanks is to try to keep the nitrates at 20 parts per million or less from one water change to the next. So we don't want it peaking any higher than 20 parts per million, let's say the day before a water change.
Sure.
The way we do that is kind of old school. We don't have an auto water change system with that many tanks. Yeah. But what we do have is a wastewater system that goes around the perimeter of our fish room, PVC. And I basically have PVC that's kind of on a decline that goes into a floor drain. And what that allows us to do is we can take a number of hoses and empty out, let's say 5, 6, 7 tanks at a time. So we can water change. We can remove water from at least 6 to 7 tanks at one time. They go into the PVC, which circles around the fish room and into the floor drain.
Okay.
The amount of water we change will be different depending on the tank. So for instance, if I've got a really heavily planted tank, we're still hitting that tank once a week with a water change, but maybe it's only 5% or 10%. Mm-hmm. Where if we've got the Mbuna tank, which is a 75 gallon that's overstocked, there's no plants in that tank really, that might be a 75% water change. So it's the nitrates that's making that determination. And then we just have a single hose that just kind of latches onto the side of the tank and we can just fill them up. That process takes a little bit longer because you can only fill one tank at a time. So as far as the water parameters go, then everything is pretty much the same in terms of pH, GH, KH. The temperature is pretty much the same throughout the fish room. We heat the room, not the tanks. Okay. We'll keep the room at usually it's around 80 to 81. So it's warm down there.
Okay.
And then the tanks are for the most part around 78 degrees or so. So that's kind of how we roll with that. It's worked for us, but a lot of people ask, and I get this a lot. Oh, I see you've got South American cichlids and African cichlids, and you've got live bearers, and you've got tetras. So basically, we've got fish from all over the world. Do you change the water parameters from one tank to the next? And the answer is no. I've never done that, and I think most fish keepers don't do that. Right? They will build a community tank and be like, okay, I've got guppies, and I've got tetras, and I've got cory cats, and I've got a couple mollies and hatchet fish, and you've got still a community tank with all these fish from all over the place, and they get along fine, and the water temperature is fine. But if you read what's the optimal, where if they were coming from nature, what would the water hardness and pH be? It would be different, right? But that doesn't mean fish can't do well in an average temperature, average water parameters.
Very nice. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay. What is your recommended starter fish? Now I know you're on the college circuit, and I'm in the high school classroom. So me trying to get some younger bodies in the hobby, I always ask your recommended starter fish to some of the experts to see what something to tell the students. I actually want to keep them in the classroom. Mm-hmm. Once they start knowing a little bit more about them, I'll have them go fishing in the tanks in the school and take them home and get them going. But what do you recommend as a starter fish?
Well, again, that kind of depends on water, right? Because that answer is going to be different depending on where somebody lives in the United States or even in the world, because and I know it's hard for a beginner to be like, okay, you mean I've got to become a water chemist and test all this stuff? Well, it's like fish keeping is not just take fish, chuck them in a thing of water and just leave them alone, right?
Right.
There is some responsibility of the fish keeper. So my answer is a little bit different depending on, I've got a pH of 6 and a GH and KH of 3 degrees. So it's really soft water with a low pH. Then you're probably not going to say, the best fish for you are mollies and guppies. Mm-hmm. That's probably not the best fish, because for them, then you're probably going to do good if you go to a pet store, local fish store. They've got beginner fish there for a reason because they're generally hardy, but maybe you're better off with the neon tetras and the cory cats and maybe some otocinclus and some rasboras, things like that, right?
Okay.
Gouramis would do, small honey gouramis might do really well in a setup like that, where your pH is right around neutral and it's softer water. Where for people, that live in my area, so my students and probably yours as well, if their water is naturally a little bit harder with a higher pH, well, now you've got, now you do have the guppies, the mollies, the platies, the swordtails are all decent. Swordtails might be a little bit aggressive, and a lot of this depends on the size tank too, right?
Sure.
I mean,
sure, absolutely.
Your recommendations are going to be different if it's a 10-gallon compared to if it's a 40-gallon breeder. But the harder water fish are mostly your live bearers. Your cory cats are going to be okay. Most of the beginner ones are still going to be fine. And it's not to say your tetras and your rasboras are all going to die, because they're not. I keep a bunch of tetras and rasboras in my fish room, and they all do fine at a pH of 8 and water hardness of 10. But yeah, I would say your live bearers are usually pretty good, especially guppies, endlers, platies. And I know they're like, okay, they're all beginner fish. Well, there's a reason why they are beginner fish, because most people, when they bring them home, have decent success. They're not terribly aggressive. They don't require special food. They don't require off-the-wall water parameters, and most of them do well in a 10 to 20 gallon tank, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a great answer, because, a lot of people will just say guppies and this, that, and the other. And I tell you what, I've been trying to keep some guppies in this community tank, and it's a lot of different things. It works for some people and it doesn't work for some people, and I don't know what to tell people. But my Rasboras and my Harlequins are doing great. They haven't lost a one.
So here's what I learned about guppies in my area, and it could be different for you. It could be different for other people who are watching. I had horrible success with guppies when I was buying them from a pet store. I mean, terrible. Mm-hmm. It got to the point where I'm like, there's something wrong with me as a fish keeper that I can't keep guppies alive for longer than 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. You go and you get all excited, like, oh, I picked these 2 really cool males, and I've got 5 or 6 or 7 females. It got to the point where, like, you know what? Maybe it's the male-female thing. I'm just going to pick all females. It still didn't matter. They were all, and the tank was fully cycled, no ammonia, no nitrite, everything was fine. I'm like, they're just dying. Then I started buying guppies at our local swaps, our auctions, people who breed them in our just regular breeders, local breeders. I got some from Twin Cities Guppies a number of years ago, and they are by far, they're still like a really strong guppy community, and I never lost, I basically never killed them again in a 4-week time period. They're breeding, they're doing all this stuff. At one point on the channel, I had what was known as the Guppy Party Tank. It was a 20 gallon that started out with, I want to say maybe 6 to 8 guppies. And I'm not kidding you. At one point, there had to have been 150 in there, and I was just taking them out. And I was selling them at swaps and auctions and giving them to people. And it was just a big, giant mass of color.
That's awesome. Yeah. I like seeing those.
They can be very frustrating.
Yeah. When it works out like that, you're like, man, it just boom, boom.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Have you ever kept anything besides fish?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I was a kid, back in my day, parents didn't care where you were most of the time. I'm really surprised I lived. I mean, if I let my kids do what I was allowed to do as a child, I don't even know if they'd be on this earth at this point, because we would, especially in the summer, we would get up in the morning, we'd eat breakfast, and then we'd go to the creek. And the creek was maybe, I don't know, everything seems larger when you're a kid. So I'm not exactly sure how far away it was, but in my mind, I'm thinking it was probably like a mile away. It probably was like 5 blocks. I don't know. But you go across the field, and there was the creek. And in the creek, we used to catch all kinds of stuff. So we'd catch the wild guppies. We would catch crayfish and snakes and frogs and toads and all kinds of stuff, turtles. And what was really cool is my parents were like, they didn't care if I brought them home. So the one rule was, if it was an animal, usually it had to stay in the garage. Fish could come in the house. So like if I had frogs or toads or turtles or snakes, those had tanks in our garage. And then what we would do is, because we were kids in the 80s and 70s, and we were crazy, we'd keep them all summer long, and then we would just return them back to nature because what are you going to do with them in the wintertime? It's not like I had like 50, and this is the early 80s. You didn't have like heat lamps everywhere and stuff. So you're just like, all right, it was fun. So we put them back where we found them. And I don't know if that was the right thing to do, but that's just what we did. So
take out their environment for some months and then put them it's wintertime.
Yeah.
Well, hibernate or whatever you do.
Yeah, they got bigger and they lived, and for the most part they were healthy. But you learn as a child, because my parents weren't standing over like, you got to do this, you got to do that. They didn't know, like, you got to do all these things. We learn as kids, as a group of friends. Okay, this is what the frogs eat. The snakes like this stuff. Oh, let's go find some crickets for the toads or whatever. And you learn how to keep these things alive. You learn important lessons, like if you catch full grown like bluegill and you throw them in an Mbuna tank, They don't stand a chance in that Mbuna tank. So I made that mistake one time where I brought home these bluegill. They were big. I mean, they were probably 6 or 7 inches, and the Mbuna were only like 4 inches. So I'm like, oh, it probably should work. Threw them in there, and within 12 hours, I'm like, I better get these things out of here. They're all going to die because they had half their fins ripped apart. So I'm like, okay, well, as a 9 or 10-year-old kid, you learn, that was interesting. They all went back. We would put wild guppies in our fish tanks, and they usually did well. We'd find minnows, they'd go in, they'd be okay. But so that was like my childhood. But then we had cats. I've got dogs now. I've got 2 dogs, but I've had dogs most of my adult life. Birds, pretty much you name it. Like the boys at one point had ball pythons, corn snakes, leopard geckos. We had a tortoise for a little while. That actually went to somebody who had a yard because we don't have a big enough space for it. So we had it. And then we're like, you know what? We were going to build out part of the garage for it. Like, that's not really the ultimate thing for a tortoise. So we knew somebody who had like a tortoise pen and basically like a farm. They're like, oh, we'd love to have it because it was a female. And I guess those tend to be more desirable. So they were going to breed them. So we've had a lot of 2-legged, 4-legged, and no-legged creatures in this house and throughout my life.
Man, that is, when it's like that, it gets very exciting, and you learn more from your failures than you do from, and you can kind of, you start learning a lot more about pretty much everything, when it's like that. Mickey M says, experience here in Europe is guppies from far away. Wholesalers may often be imported carrying bad bacterias, may be bred plus grown up in antibiotic prep waters.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. I think in some cases, there are probably breeders out there, maybe somewhere far off, that are breeding guppies to the point where the genetics aren't so good anymore. And I think that could be a big issue with some, not all, but at least some of the guppies that I was picking up from local fish stores. I think their genetics were just terrible.
Danny Longstrength says, have you seen Oscar fish changing shades of color? If so, do you know why they do this?
Yeah, Oscars are weird. They're weird, and they're awesome because they wear their emotions on their sleeve. If they had sleeves, they would wear them on their sleeve. Instead, they wear them on their skin. So what a lot of cichlids will do is they will change, even South and Central American cichlids will change their color based on a lot of factors. So it could be breeding. It could be the tank itself. So for instance, I had, let me see some good examples, Sahika cichlids. I did a species profile on Sahikas, and they're really cool fish, but they look quite different depending on the type of substrate that they're on. The other one is rainbow, like the common rainbow cichlid. I had those on a light sand, and they were really pretty. They had really pretty yellow. They got the black stripe down the center. And then I put them on even like a darker tan gravel, and they muddied up, and they don't look nearly as good. So Oscars, they don't do it as much. So they don't do it nearly as much as other fish. Like right now I've got a Severum, and he's a big dude. He's a red shoulder Severum, and he's actually on my thumbnail of the Severum video that I did. He's got real pretty red, and he's got all these nice colors, and he used to look like that. And now he's almost like jet black. And the reason for that is there's a female in there, and that female, believe it or not, is pretty aggressive. So the female will be like, you know what, I don't want you around me. And she'll kind of push him to the back of the 150. Well, I think he's just kind of turned darker just to kind of blend in with the surroundings and just chill out and be like, you know what, just leave me alone. So fish will do that for a lot of reasons. Just if they're getting bullied, if they are showing off to a potential female, if they, even food to a certain extent, their background color, gravel, substrate. Like Oscars are crazy because there were times where I come down and I thought my Oscar was dead because I'm like, oh my gosh, he's just sitting there laying on his side, kind of like what clown loaches do. Yeah. And I'm like, the first time you see that clown loach, they're like, oh great, I just spent $20 on the clown loach. It's laying on its side, is dead.
It's a fact.
And then all of a sudden you look over and it just gets up. My clown loaches mess with me because every time I want to take a little video of them doing that or a picture, the minute I bust out my phone, I'm like, ha, 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 I'm sitting upright. But Oscars will do that too. You do a water change and they don't like what you did with the substrate and stuff. You put everything back to the way it was. They get angry with that. They're like, I'm just going to lay here on the gravel. And then when you go away, I'm going to mess everything up again because this is my tank, not yours.
They pout. Pouted. My clown loach were doing the same thing. They would get their nose all the way in the corner of the tank and just be there. And I'm like, dude, what happened?
You know what? bristlenose plecos will do that too.
Okay.
But I think they just fall asleep or something, because you know how they'll get underneath a piece of wood, they'll just kind of like stick to it, and then all of a sudden they'll just let go, but they're still on their back. I'm like, is that thing dead? Yeah. There was a couple of times where I'm poking it and it just gets back up and just goes and it's still alive, and it's been many, many years. But every once in a while they'll just fall asleep upside down and just release themselves and be like, yeah, I'm good. I'm just gonna stay this way. It's fine.
I was looking at your videos. You have an oddball tank that has a cichlid with some stuff that shouldn't be in with a cichlid. And what is that? What's all in that tank? And you've made it work.
So yeah, the 150. Some of my subscribers, what did they used to call it? Like the what's the big place in New York with all the flags? Why am I blanking on it? It's probably because it's late. Like the World Tank or whatever, because there was basically fish from all different regions. At one point, and I don't recommend this, by the way, I have a Geophagus altifrons in that tank. That's the real pretty Geophagus. I've got a Frontosa, 2 Severums. I had an angelfish. At one point, there were a couple of tinfoil barbs, a ballast shark, a gourami, a whole bunch of clown loaches, a bunch of bristlenose plecos. There's a tiger loach in there, Tigobotia. There's actually a coolie loach in that tank, and I see it like once every 9 to 10 months.
Never see that coolie.
Yeah, and again, the big argument that I get from that is those fish require different water parameters. You have no business keeping them together.
Sure.
And my response is, okay, well then would that be the case where if they were in separate tanks, everything would be fine? Because the water parameters throughout my entire fish room are the same. The issue when you mix fish, I think the biggest issue, yeah, water parameters to a certain extent, but if you're pretty close to average in most of your stuff, it might work out okay. The bigger issue is diet. And if you've got fish with a mismatched diet, that can be a problem. Let's say you've got Mbuna with Oscars. They might get along. The problem is going to be, what's the diet like with the Mbuna wanting primarily vegetable matter, and the Oscar wouldn't mind some bloodworms every once in a while. So, but that tank, that 150, the tinfoil barbs, we lost the tinfoil barbs and the ballast shark a year ago because we did some water changes after a heavy rainstorm. We lost those. We lost a bunch of bristlenose. We lost all in the same day, and we lost some fish on Joanna's smaller nano nook area. But those fish were too active for that tank for a 150. I wouldn't do that again. But the other fish are still in there. They get along fine. There's nobody finning it. There's nobody in the corner. Nobody's getting bullied. So it works. Now, would I start out making a tank like that? Probably not. But It just wound up that way because when you've got a lot of tanks and you're trying to figure out, okay, this fish is not working in this setup, let me move it. I think it's actually going to work over here. And it does. It just, sometimes weird things happen. It's like we have a 125 where at one point we had a very large Oscar. We had a really large tilapia, which we had for a number of years until it passed on, but it was like 18 inches. And then we had some peacocks, some OBs and some dragon bloods. And what happened was, fish started, we had some fish, some peacocks, some red empress that were getting picked on. I'm like, where am I going to put these fish? Because I don't want them to die. Oh my gosh, I think the place where they're going to work out best is next door in the 125 Oscar tank. And sure enough, they worked out so well that they all started having babies, and the babies survived in that tank. So the feedback I get is, you can't keep Oscars with peacocks. I agree with that most of the time. I would not set up a tank intending to do that. But it just so happened where because of the personality of that particular Oscar and that big 18.5-inch tilapia, and because they were well fed and they were already there, they were the first fish there, then the peacocks come in, it worked. Nobody was in a corner, nobody's fighting, nobody's getting eaten. The babies would survive. That was one of my most productive peacock tanks in terms of breeding. I would pull the babies out of there and sell them at the auctions and the swaps and stuff. So it just happened to work out. Now, would I say, hey, go and mix those things from the start? No, because Oscars actually are not aggressive fish. That would not have worked if the peacocks were already in there. Mm-hmm. It was a fully established breeding tank, and I threw in a 3 or 4 inch Oscar, he would have been killed inside of 24 hours. I never would have done that. Same thing with the tilapia. If he was a little 2-inch guy in there with 7-inch peacocks, and especially the OBs. The OBs are some of the meanest of the African cichlids, in my opinion. That never would have worked. But when you've got an 18-inch in there, 18-inch tilapia and a 13-inch Oscar, it worked out a little better.
Yeah. Oh. Another quick question. Trying to breed my Oscars has not happened. Maybe they're the same sex. I have no idea how to sex. Now, is there a way to tell besides venting them? Because
Venting them in size. I'm not good at sexing Oscars only because you almost have to see them side by side. What I will say is if you're trying to breed them, be careful what you wish for. Because large South and Central American cichlids are going to give you way more fry than you're gonna be able to move. So an example would be I had my Midas cichlids and they bred and then they left me with like 800 fry. There's not a lot of people out there that want large South and Central American cichlids, and you can overwhelm a market really fast with 800 fish. So if you want to breed them, just to be like, okay, I bred them. Maybe you're in a club, you want your breeder awards points, your BAP, or maybe you're like, okay, I'm going to keep some of them because I'd like a few more. Or maybe you've got a local fish store that might take a few, but understand a lot of fish stores get bombarded with large South and Central American cichlids, and people are like, I don't know what to do with this. I got 400. I mean, when you see 400 or 800 fish, yeah, when they're little tiny slivers, like, wow, that seems like a lot. When they start growing to like an inch, inch and a half, 2 inches, you're like, and you've still got maybe 600 of them have survived. You're like, what am I going to do? Because this isn't getting cute anymore. I need a bunch of tanks and Oscars, your big South and Central American fry, they grow extremely fast. Mm-hmm. So it's not like, you said you breed the African cichlids, the peacocks and stuff.
Sure.
They grow at a decent clip, but they'll only have 30 babies at a time. Maybe, a female's got a really big mouthful. So you'll get 40, 45 out of that. But when you've got 400, 600, 800,
yeah,
and they're growing probably at 3 times the rate of a peacock cichlid, and it's like, okay, well, yeah, this is great. Now I need grow out tanks or grow out bins, and I need a bunch of them, and they're just taking up a lot of food too because they eat like crazy. Mm-hmm. So just be careful. So to answer your question, yeah, to vent them, or the only way I know how to do is when they're side by side. You can tell because the females are a little bit smaller, they're shaped just slightly differently. Mm-hmm. But I would not in a million years would I purposely breed Oscars. For me personally, in my market, I stay away from breeding Oscars. I will never breed the Midas cichlids again or red devils. The other ones are like Texas cichlids, Jack Dempsey's, green terrors. Green terrors look amazing. Mm-hmm. They have such big groups of fry.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with them all? Because not everybody, a lot of people have tanks for swordtails, mollies, tetras, Cory cats. You can sell those to a lot of people. There aren't a lot of people who have the minimum tank size required for a large, aggressive South or Central American cichlid.
Yeah. Yeah. I had got a question. What can you keep with red tails community wise? A lot of people get red tail sharks confused with rainbow sharks. Rainbow sharks, they can go in a community tank with some of your, like, I would say raspboras and some tetras or something like that. But those red tail sharks, they will bully every small fish in there, and they can get pretty big. I believe you had a huge red tail shark in there, and I would say that you could probably keep them with some of your semi-aggressive African cichlids personally.
Yeah.
But I saw a red tail shark, if I'm not mistaken, in one of your tanks. That joker.
He was big. So actually lost that red tail shark. I'll tell that story in a minute. But the red tail shark is aggressive. And what I did a species profile on that fish, and I got some feedback saying, "Oh, my red tail shark is fine. It works in my community tank." And I always my response is, "How big is it?" And almost without exception, "Oh, it's 2 inches, 3 inches." I'm like, "Yeah, that's going to be fine for a little while. Wait, just give it time." That red tail sharks, they get into their angry teenage years, full of angst. The problem with them is they never let that angst go, and they become very angry adults. So they're kind of like a large Joe Pesci of fish keeping or something like that. They're just always in a bad mood. So yes, I kept them successfully, but it was in a 75-gallon. You need a big tank for these guys. My red tail shark was at least 7 inches before he passed. So I had success keeping them with Severums, with large Geophagus, leaf Tinapoma. For some reason, he ignored that. I actually had an even meaner fish than that red tail shark in that tank, and that was a Syncrosis birdmorii loach. Birdmorii loach. It is. I still have it. It's a coolest looking fish. That loach would actually sometimes chase the red-tailed shark around, and he came in after the fact. Those guys are mean, but that all worked. Even small South and Central American cichlids often don't work. The red-tailed shark would chase my Thricthes maculopinus, is kind of like a firemouth cichlid. He would chase all those around. Anything Sahica-like, Curviceps, those types of cichlids didn't stand a chance.
Yeah.
Gouramis like the opalines, the blues, the golds, the more aggressive gouramis are hit or miss. But yeah, when you mentioned the African cichlids, that can sometimes work. Your medium size, and even that's a fish where as long as you're matching the size properly, you get into those Jack Dempsey, Oscar type situations. That can sometimes work, but not in a million years would I put that fish in a community tank unless you just want that fish to kill everything and then you've just got one.
That's a fact. That's a fact. LC Aquatics, he's 16. He's been one of my future fish keeping pain in my butts, but he has a 20 to 25 baby Peacock Cichlid Fry in my 20-gallon. When can I start selling them? I'm gonna say, listen, if you can find a seller for them, they'll take them, but they're not going to give you too much for them at as far as babies. What sellers are looking for that color, and they're looking for the males because they know the females are always going to be drab. So you're going to have to probably grow those suckers out, and it's going to take them forever because I have fry galore from my cichlid, from my African cichlids, and I'm gonna ask you, Jason, how do I grow these things out faster and quicker? And that might help LC out too, but you're not going to get too much for them. You're going to take a bag full of those 20 and they're probably going to give you pennies for those jokers because they just don't know, what they're going to grow up to look like.
Yeah. So two things there, right? One, growing them out quickly. Tank size is key with growing out just about any type of fish. I've made the mistake at times of, what I generally do is I'll take a female, if I notice that she's holding, I'll throw her in a 10-gallon by herself so that she can spit the fry out whenever she wants. The fry are going to be safe. And then I leave her in there for 2 or 3 weeks, get some weight back on her so that she's not just going right back in the tank and being, then she's breeding again and she never gets a chance to eat. So I've made the mistake at times of leaving the fry in even a 10-gallon too long and running the risk of stunting their growth, and they grow very slowly. So the problem is when it comes to peacock fry is I think for people who don't breed them a lot, they get complacent in that, they're not growing very fast. I can keep leaving them in this 10-gallon or 20-gallon longer and longer and longer until they realize, wait a minute, it's the size of the tank that's making them not grow very fast. If you had, as an experiment, if you took 2 females that spit out fry in the same day, and let's just say they were Eureka Red. The Eureka Red peacocks are some of the smallest out there. So you put the fry in a 10-gallon, you just stick the other ones in a 55-gallon. You never move them. Obviously, there's some issues with putting fry in a 55-gallon finding food. I'm just saying from a growth perspective, wait a month, and you will see that those fry in that 55-gallon are substantially larger than the ones you left in a 10. And in 2 or 3 months, there's the fry in the fry that were now basically older juveniles in that 55-gallon are going to be much, much larger than those ones in the 10 that barely grew. So tank size really matters. If it's, hey, you know what, I've got this 20-gallon, I really can't afford a 55, then maybe split the group up and get a couple of 30-gallon totes, plastic totes, and just run sponge filters in there. In terms of when and how to sell them, you're right. Those little ones that are going to be less than an inch, nobody, even at a swap or an auction, those are a really tough sell. When I sell at swaps and auctions, usually what I'm doing is I'm selling a bag of 6. If they're peacocks, maybe they're 1.5 inches, so about that big. Mm-hmm. Depending on the type of peacock at a swap, I might be able to sell 5 for $10, $15, depending on what they are. That's all I'm getting. Because, and keep in mind, most people go to swaps and auctions, they're kind of into the whole fish breeding. They don't really care if they get females, but you're absolutely right. If you let them go longer, and even at a swap or an auction, especially the swaps, if I can now get a male that's got color and starting to show color, now instead of selling 5 for maybe $10, I can sell that one for $20 to $30 easy. Mm-hmm. And that's at a swap.
Sure.
Obviously, if you're bringing them to a local fish store, they're not going to offer you a ton of money. Maybe you're going to get, depending on the fish store, 25% of the sale price.
Yeah.
So they might sell it for $40 and give you 10.
Yeah.
And that's if it's showing color, because just like you said, what are they going to do with, there's not a lot of customers that walk in and say, I want 1 male and 3 or 4 females. There are some. So there is a use for the females, because usually people want to breed them, understand, I need 1 male, but I also need 3 or 4 females. So that's one way to get rid of them, but that's easier to do at a swap or an auction when you've got people who are into that. The fish stores know I can sell the colorful ones for $40, but the ones that stay silver are almost worthless to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What's your biggest tank disaster?
My biggest tank disaster. Luckily, I've never had a tank as an adult blow a seam. I did have that happen as a kid. This is a funny story. I remember I was a kid. I was probably 10 or 12 years old. I'm starting to see a theme here. I don't know why my parents would just let us fall asleep on the living room floor, but me and my brother were sleeping on a living room floor. There's this orange carpet. It was like this shag carpet from the late 70s, early 80s. It was horrible stuff. It's itchy. But anyway.
Was it booger green?
No, it was orange. It was like a burnt orange. It was the typical like early 80s nasty.
Yeah. It's the same shag carpet from that 70s show.
Pretty probably, yeah. I mean, pretty much. So I'm sleeping, and I wake up, and my leg is all wet, and I'm hearing running water. So I'm a kid. I'm like, oh man! I look down. I'm like, did I just messed my pants up here on my own? The good news was I didn't mess up my own pants. The bad news was I was sleeping by our 35-gallon, me and my brother, and the 35-gallon had blown a seam. It was spilling water on me. So that was the reason why my pants were all wet.
Right.
But I remember that was like at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, oh, Dad, the tank's leaking water. Like, what? And you got to tell them like 5 times because, they're grown-ups and they're waking them out of deep sleep. So now it's like 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, go get a pitcher. And we're getting the pitchers of water. And we're putting and those were in Boona Cichlids. We're trying to find a place for them. So that was one bad thing. As an adult, in my own fish room, probably the worst that I've had was I had a heater go down in a Lake Tanganyika tank in a 37-gallon. I had some Daffodil Burchardi, which I really love those fish. And I want to say I had some Caudal punctatus, which are really cool, almost shell dweller-like fish. The heater went down, but I didn't notice it for a couple of days because the unfortunate thing is when a heater goes out, the water temperature cools. It might take 24 hours for it to get to room temperature. And at that time, we weren't heating the basement. But it fell into probably like the mid to upper 60s. Now, for Lake Tanganyika fish, that's not a good thing. They're sensitive to water temperature changes. The reason I noticed it, and here's a pro tip for y'all. If your fish are healthy and your water parameters are fine and you're throwing food in there and they're not eating, you haven't added any new fish in a long time, check water temperature. Because if that water temperature goes down, most fish will stop eating. They become inactive. And I noticed, I'm like, man, I fed the fish this morning. They weren't eating. I fed them again. They weren't eating. Well, the heater had crashed. Went out and got a new heater. As I slowly raised the temperature back up, within the course of a couple of days, I lost every single fish. So that really stung. And then I've had a couple instances where hang-on back filters emptied water out onto the floor. And that's never a good thing. So luckily in both cases, one case, I think the most it emptied out was maybe like 5 or 8 gallons out of a 40-gallon breeder. But, it never is convenient. It just kind of goes underneath all like the tank racks. Now you're trying to get a wet dry vac under there. Jeez. Another pro tip, if you've got more than 5 tanks, or a really big tank, get a wet dry vac. Just trust me on that one.
Just do it.
You never know when you're going to need it, but those are unfortunate too. But nothing like crazy huge has happened.
Okay. That first fish that you had that got you started into fishing 40 years ago, what was that tank size? What was that first tank size you had?
For a fancy goldfish, remember this is the late 70s. This is pre-internet time.
Okay.
You listen to the person who's selling you the fish. And the person selling us the fish said we could put it in one of those goldfish bowls, but it wasn't even like a big goldfish bowl. It was one of those ones that was kind of like almost like saucer-like.
Yeah.
So I remember bringing this little goldfish bowl home. We put the gravel in, one plant in the center, and the fish is just swimming in a circle. And back in those days, I don't even think there was really water conditioner yet, at least not commonly in the hobby. So the directions were you take the goldfish out every 4 or 5 days. You dump out all the water, you change the water and throw the fish back in there. And you just did that forever until you no longer had the fish. So that was the first tank that I had, but it lived a pretty long time like that. And then we eventually it was just like a typical thing. Then we got a 10-gallon. Then I had uncles on both sides of the family that were into fish. Then I remember we got a 20-gallon. It was total 70s 20-gallon. It had gold, like flake paint in the back, like there's a backdrop. 35, and then we had another 10. So even as a kid, we had a number of tanks.
That's nice. Yeah. What would you say to your 25-year-old self?
Well, I say a lot of things. I mean, I don't know how long you want this live stream to be, but I got lots of advice for my 25-year-old self. As it pertains to fish, so by 25, I think I learned a lot from my mistakes, but I would say I wish I would have started the fish room earlier. So it took a while to get the actual big fish room in place. I probably, if I could go back, might have started that maybe 5 or 8 years earlier. I would say by 25, I kind of learned at that point in fish keeping, to me, the two big things, and that is do your research and have patience. Now, if I could go back and talk to my 15-year-old self, I would tell him that about life in general.
Right.
Do your research and have patience. Not everything has to happen in the same day or the next day, because in fish keeping, that's really important. You want to be able to do your research so that you know the fish that you're keeping together can actually go together, that they're not going to outgrow their tank, they're not going to kill one another, that they're going to eat the foods that you want to feed them. The patience part comes in when you're setting up a new tank, and this is a really important for new fish keepers, is the desire to get the tank and the fish in one trip all at the same time. Then you go home, you set up the tank, it looks fantastic, you throw the fish in, and as long as you remember the dechlorinator, everything works out great for like a week. And then the ammonia starts to build up, and that's where all the problems come in, or something brings in ick, and after a couple of days, they're all dead anyway. So the patience part of this means you wait till your tank is the ecosystem is running properly. And so you've got no ammonia, no nitrite, you've got a little bit of nitrate. The patience part comes in when you get new fish. As bad as you want to see them in your new tank, you're like, you know what, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to quarantine them, because what inevitably happens is you wind up buying fish for a great deal. Like, oh my gosh, they had neon tetras on sale at PetSmart, $1 a piece, and I went and bought them all, and I bought 25 of them. And then you throw them directly in your 55-gallon tank, let's say, full of koi angelfish, your half blues, or you've got, this amazing, Geophagus topos. You just got all these really great fish, and you chuck those $25 worth of fish in there, and one of them brought in ick. And the worst part about it is it kills off 90% of the fish you just bought and all the fish you already had in that tank. And by the end of it, when you get done treating it all, you're like, so that $25, a good deal of fish. I got 5 neons and everything else is dead, including my angelfish, my geophagus, my blue phantom pleco, and my high-end quarry cats, right? That's the part that really stinks, because you can mentally possibly handle losing the 25 neons. Be like, you know what, that's on me. It's stupid quarantine. I should have quarantined. They're all dead. But when you start losing fish in there that were like big deal, like that's a tough one.
Absolutely. Just want to take a sidebar and say, Joe Munoz, you don't want any parts of me, boy. Just let you know. I like this question. Jason, was his career a result of the hobby, or is it all coincidence?
Say that again.
Was your career a result of the hobby, or is it all a coincidence?
That's a great question. I think it was partially keeping living things. Like I said, my parents never really put any, except for dogs, they never really put any limits on what we could have as pets, right? We had a cat, we had birds, we had hamsters and gerbils. I mentioned all the things that we had as a kid. So I think there was a natural affinity for biology and how life worked. And there was a lot of good memories just hanging out all day at a creek and just figuring things out. So when it came time to study, first of all, I didn't go to college right out of high school either. I was one of those students who, quite frankly, I barely made it out of high school. I mean, I was really close to not making it out of high school. So education, believe it or not, when I was in high school was not a priority of mine. So I actually went to work right out of high school, and I worked in a freezer in a place that sold frozen foods or shipped frozen foods. So I worked there for a number of years, and I actually moved up in that company a little bit at a time, from like someone who worked in the freezer to a forklift driver to an inventory manager to a logistics analyst to someone in purchasing, then moved to the printing industry for 10 years. And while I was doing all of that, I realized this is not what I want to do, because back then in my mid-20s, I'm looking around and I'm thinking, wow, you know what? There's a lot of really old people here who are like 40 years old and they're like miserable. Thinking, man, these people are old and miserable. Now looking back, I'm like, geez, I thought those people were old. They were miserable. Yeah, but man, they were in the prime of their life. So I decided I didn't want to be that way. And so the question then became, what did I want to do? And so I knew I loved sciences, and I decided to major in biology. But I didn't really know, even when I went back to school at a community college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew that I liked the life sciences. So I wasn't sure. I was like a revolving, I was like a carousel. Like, I'm going to be a doctor. I want to be a vet. I want to be a pharmacist. I want to be a veterinarian. I want to be a researcher. I want to go to Africa and study disease, So I didn't know where it was going to lead, even after I got done with my undergrad. So I majored in biology and minored in chemistry. And it wasn't until the last semester where one of the professors there, who was the department chair, said, hey, what are you doing after you get done with your bachelor's degree? I'm like, I think I'm going to just go to grad school because I really like this, but I'm not. I thought maybe I was headed toward the research path. I said, well, we decided that I would stay where I was, and I was going to do a master's degree in biotechnology and chemical science. And it was in that program that I decided what I wanted to do, because it was really interesting. With almost every course that we took, we were required to give a presentation on the material that we were learning. And these weren't like little short 2 or 3 or 5 minute presentations. These were 20, 30 minutes, sometimes more. Well, I was a weird person, and I liked that part of the class. So I put a lot of effort into it. And it was then that I decided I want to be in education. I want to teach. And so I didn't know if that was going to be high school or college. And it just so happened to turn out that it wound up being at the college level. So that my path was very nonlinear. It wasn't like, so I am always amazed by teenagers who are like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And they mean it. I'm going to do all of these things, and this is how I'm going to do it. And then they get it done. I'm like,
yeah,
you are amazing. I've got students that come to me at 18, 19 years old in my biology majors courses and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a pharmacist, a dentist, a doctor. And almost everybody says that in my biology majors course, but there is a certain percentage of them that actually do it. And then I talk to them when they're out of med school at this point, and they're like, are they doing these missions trips to, in South America, and they're talking about all the things that they're experiencing. I'm like, I remember when you were 18, you were a goofball, smart, but talking about how you were going to be a doctor, and now here you are, an MD. I've got people all over the place who are nurses, dentists, all kinds of stuff. That's really cool.
Sure. Absolutely. Primetime Aquatics, where did the name come from?
So that's a great question. I had never intended to do YouTube. When I built the fish room, I've always said the fish room was for me. It was my hobby. It was my dream. I just always wanted a fish room, so we built it. And then my kids, who were young at the time, said, hey, Dad, they would watch YouTube. And they were like, Dad, you should go on YouTube and talk about your fish and, all the things that you're doing. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do that. I just want to enjoy the fish. Like, oh, you should really do it. And so they hounded me for probably 6 months about how I should, do YouTube videos. And I was finally like, all right, if we're going to do this, it was supposed to be us, by the way. It was supposed to be me and the boys, and we were going to do this thing. And so we sat down, like, if we're going to do this, we got to have some direction, some idea. What's this thing going to be about? We need a channel name. So we wrote down all these names, and I don't know. I think I was the one that thought of Primetime Aquatics. There was like a few that we were like way up there on the list, and we just went around in circles, and it was just, it was just something that came to my brain. There was no real, I don't know, like what connection there was between that and like how I thought of it. but it was just one of those ones that was on a list of about 100 channel names. And I'm like, I like that one. I just like the way it sounds. So that's how it ended up.
Very awesome. Yeah. My other question for you is behind me. I don't know if you can see it there, but holding on to the Superman decal there is the Thanos gauntlet. You have 70 to 80 tanks. If Thanos snapped and half of them would go away, what would be the half?
That's easy.
Saved.
They could take all the grow out tanks, so all my 10s, my grow out bins, those can all go. Any 20 high. I mean, wait, am I losing the fish too?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. So the grow out bins are fine. I'm pretty sure at that point I've lost probably at least 15 tanks at that point. Don't tell Joanna I said this. Her whole nano nook can go. So that loses like another 15. I'm almost there at that point. And then it's at that, maybe, I don't know. The bristlenose plecos, I love them. Don't get me wrong, but I can go get more of those. That's not a big deal. So I'll snap those away. I think at that point, I'm probably pretty good.
Okay.
I can keep my low boys. I can keep all my 125s, all my 75s, most of my 40 breeders. So,
all right. Yeah. There it is. There it is. Well, I'm pretty sure the busy chat knows what's about to go on, but
all right, here we go.
It's something that you got to deal with. Everybody does. Well, welcome to it. Can someone in the chat let them know what time it is?
All right, I'm getting ready. Here we go.
This is it. Welcome to
the beard. Gives me power. A secret.
Fishy Biz and Primetime Aquatics. It's going to be a crazy one. It's a lot of live streams on tonight, but this is going to be your favorite one. And people, I'm not going to play with them. Here we go. The first part of this is very simple. It is simply your faves. Nobody else's faves, just yours. This should be very simple for you.
All right. Your
absolutely favorite fish. You have a lot of them, 80 tanks worth. What's your favorite fish?
My Geophagus altifrons in my 150. The dude is just a superstar. You walk in the basement and he is the first fish that everybody notices. Huge, long trailing fins, crazy color. By far my favorite.
There it is. What's your favorite tank size?
Well, I mean, it's as long as I don't know, 100,000 gallons. But if we're going to talk about realistic, what I've got in the fish room,
sure,
the 125s. Of the ones that I have are 125s. If I could pick one that I don't have, probably a 180. I like the dimensions. It's still 6 feet, still manageable. 6 feet, 24 inches wide, about the same tall. So 180 is a nice size.
Okay, all right. Favorite substrate to use?
Mostly the Carib Sea black sand. The top fin's actually fine too. It's cheaper. And the reason why I specifically most of the fish that I keep look good on dark substrate. Sand there's almost never a situation. I mean, there are some situations, but there's almost never a situation where you're going to have fish that need to be on gravel, but there's a lot of fish that need to be on sand. So I'm going to go black sand.
Okay. All right. All right. Favorite filtration?
Hang on back. When I look at all the different options out there, and this is going to sound crazy for someone who's got almost all sponge filters in their fish room, but if I were only running one tank, now within reason, again, if it's a 3,000 gallon tank, I can't strap on 45 hang-on backs, but standard size tanks, anywhere from a 5 gallon up to even a 180, I would just run hang-on backs.
Very nice. Which one in particular do you like?
So there's two that I like. I like the Seachem titles.
Okay.
Especially the Seachem title 55 and above. And I do like the Marineland Pro series because they both have the internal pumps. So they're really silent, self-priming. And I like those about those particular two filters.
I'm on the same thing. I have a 350 hang on a back Penguin, along with a 55 title on the 60 gallon.
Yeah.
Same thing on my 75 gallon, but on my 40 breeder with my Lake Tanyanikans, I have that Marine Pro.
Yeah.
Very awesome. Yeah. Self-propelled. Once the water level gets there, it jets on. Very nice. What are two fishy friends? Two fish that you can just put in the tank together and you know they get along no matter what.
No matter what. I mean, you can just go Cory cats and brilliant green rasboras. They'll ignore each other and never bother one another.
There it is. All right. What about two fish enemies? Should never go in a tank together.
Oh, boy. Well, like we said, the red-tailed shark and just about any community fish, but more specifically, probably flowerhorn and anything too.
Okay.
Yeah. Doveye. Yeah. How about a doveye? Don't put a doveye with anything that's in its mouth, which are most other fish.
Right. Favorite place to buy fish?
So I've got a couple, but I guess if I have to choose one, probably where I buy most of my fish is Aquatics Unlimited in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Favorite bottom dweller fish?
My favorite is probably that Syncrosis Bergmorii that I was talking about. That fish is amazing looking. Its personality is fantastic, but they are pretty aggressive.
Okay. All right. Enough of that. What's your favorite breakfast food?
Well, every morning for probably the last, I don't even know now, 30 years, it's been half a dozen egg whites, bowl of oatmeal with either blueberries or raisins, and a glass of orange juice. It's what I eat.
Straight like that.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite cereal?
Oh, boy. If I could only pick one, I might have to go Lucky Charms.
Ooh, you like the sweet marshmallows? All those marshmallows?
Lucky Charms.
Oh, my God. The rainbows and the purple umbrellas and the green horseshoe. Jeez.
Uh-huh.
It's too much for me.
I know. I love it, though. I can't help it. I don't eat it very often. I mean,
right.
Every once in a while, Joanna will bring home, my wife will bring home a box, and she'll tell the boys, that's not for you. It doesn't matter that she says that because I get like one bowl and then it's gone the next day. I'm like, you guys hear that thing where she said it was for me? Trying to work on high blood sugar or something over here. You realize what's going on?
Oh, what's your favorite dessert?
Chocolate cake, but it's got to be chocolate on the inside and chocolate frosting, double chocolate.
Okay. All right. Very nice. Like a, what's that, a lava cake they used to sell somewhere before where it's chocolate on the outside and you put the fork in and it oozes chocolate on the outside?
I don't know if I could go quite that crazy. It's just got to be cakey, like the brown cakey stuff in the middle.
Oh, okay. All right.
Regular frosting.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Favorite fast food joint?
Around us, we got a Portillo's, and that is like the thing in the Chicagoland area. Portillo's, if you need burgers and you know you're going to enjoy a burger, hot dog, it's got to be Portillo's.
That's it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite restaurant to sit down and eat?
Favorite restaurant? Man, I don't really go to a lot of restaurants. This is like a sit-down one. But if I had to pick one, Jameson's. It's a steak place.
Okay.
They've got amazing fillets.
All right. Okay. What's your favorite food to cook?
Favorite food to cook is I think it's just my eggs because it's easy and they're so light and it's just boom. I don't have to fill myself up.
And just knock it out. Okay.
Keep it simple.
All right. Favorite wrestler?
Like professional?
Sure. You know some unprofessional wrestlers?
I guess I don't. I think I'd have to go back to the day and eat your maniacs. I mean, I still remember as a kid when Hulk Hogan fought. Who did he fight with? Like Rowdy Piper was out there. I mean, it was a big deal when he came out there. What's that?
Oh, was it a big brawl?
No, I might have been. He was like defending his championship. I remember like as a kid, I was nervous. It might have been on MTV or something like when cable first came out.
Okay.
My stomach was all nervous. I'm like, man, Hulk Hogan. Luckily, he won. I think Mr. T might have even been there at that time.
Oh, smack. It was a big deal.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
I just went to a friend of mine's bachelor party, and it was Hulk Hogan themed. So I had to go on Amazon and get the whole Hulkamania thing. I got the blonde beard and the whole nine.
Although my favorite wrestling line is, I'm going to need you to walk into the kitchen, open up the refrigerator door, and get yourself a nice, cool glass of shut up juice.
Great invitation.
Yeah. I'll never forget that.
From the mouth of babes. Yeah. People coming in. Mine is finally The Rock has come back to St. Louis. Yes.
Oh man.
Hey man, I like that guy. I like that guy. Favorite type of music?
So I'm all over the place when it comes to music. I am literally, it changes every day. It depends on my mood. I can go hardcore techno, switch that around to punk rock, then go to country, and then go and relive my early 90s days with Snoop Dogg and some gin and juice, and then circle right back around and do some kind of a crazy heavy metal thing, like from, I don't know, from the early 80s. So it's crazy. It's just nonstop. Today, I was listening to early 90s house music.
Okay.
That was what I woke up. I'm like, I needed to listen to Bad Boy Bill. So
awesome.
That's what I did.
Awesome. Okay. Same type of music when you do water changes, or do you listen to music during water changes?
I don't do water changes. That's the kids. But if I were doing water changes, right, usually if I'm doing water changes, or if I was doing some type of water change thing, I'd probably just have YouTube podcasts or live streams on in the background or something.
Joel has come here from Primetime Aquatics, so I want to make sure I welcome him. Favorite song to sing in karaoke?
I don't sing karaoke. I'm not singing in front of people. You kidding me? There's not going to be any karaoke in my lifetime ever.
Oh, you could go karaoke.
Maybe if it was like,
come to Chicago, we're going to find a karaoke joint.
You're the one going to be singing, because I'm going to be sitting there. I'll do backup, but you won't actually hear my voice. No, go out there. You do it. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead and sing.
I'll be Snoop Dogg.
You'll be out there singing "Achy Breaky Heart" like. Yeah.
I can be Snoop. You can be Dre. We'll do gin and juice. It'll be great.
All right. Okay. That I might do, because that's not. Yeah, I think I can. I think I can handle it.
Yeah, you can pull that off.
All right, we'll do that.
If I'm up there, 1, 2, 3 into the 4, you can definitely do something.
All right, that I can handle. All right.
All right. Favorite soft drink? You probably don't drink soda.
Dr. Pepper. Well, I mean, if I got to do it, Dr. Pepper gives me a headache. I don't care.
Okay.
In fact, I always tell my family, "Go. What do you want to drink? Just get me a headache," and they know it's Dr. Pepper.
They know what it is.
Yep.
What's your favorite app on your phone?
My favorite, I guess, would be the YouTube one.
Okay.
It's one of the few that I use.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. What's your favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? Probably Thanksgiving, because I love Thanksgiving meal. It's got to be turkey, but I like it a little bit dry.
Okay.
Mashed potatoes, the green bean casserole. You got to have the bread, and then I absolutely need the canned cranberries. I can polish off a whole can by myself, and everybody knows I get my can, and everybody else can have the other cans, but I need my own. I cut them up into big chunks, and
solidarity. I have to have the canned cranberry.
I thought I was the only one
that
ate that stuff. Everybody makes fun of me.
Yeah. You know what? People in my family don't even touch it. I'm the one just. Hey, more for me. I'll take it.
Cut it off in the big. It's just fun to cut, and you get the big giant chunk.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with that. What's your favorite celebrity crush?
Do I even have one of those? I don't think I do.
I never had a celebrity crush.
Like when I was a kid? Like when I was a
sure. You know, who tickled your fancy out there in the Hollywood world?
The Hollywood world. Oh boy. I think I really ever thought about it that much. I mean, not. Hold on, let me. All right, I'm gonna come back to that one. Give me another one, and then I'm gonna be thinking about that one for a minute.
Favorite ice cream flavor?
Chocolate.
Okay. All right. That goes with your chocolate cake.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Favorite car?
I think it's a 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner.
Very nice. Very nice. Mine was a 77 Pontiac Trans Am.
Oh, well, did it have the thing on? Does it have the thing on the hood?
That's the Firebird. The Trans Am didn't have it. Yeah, nope. Trans Am in 77 did not have it on there.
The 77 had the big. What was that? The 7.2.
Yeah, and you had the bucket seats. You had the big thing at the top, but did not have the Firebird on it. Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, those are awesome. Like the big 455 cubic inch engine.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah. Vroom vroom.
Favorite
superhero?
Iron Man.
Is he?
All day, Iron Man.
All right. Tony Stark's in the place. Okay, I'm with it. Favorite sport?
Probably baseball.
Okay. Favorite team?
White Sox.
Favorite position?
Shortstop. It's what I played when I was in baseball.
I thought you were going to say the Cubbies. I would have to kick you off the stream right now.
I'm one of those. So I'm from Chicago, and Cubs and White Sox, you're supposed to like one, hate the other.
Yeah.
I love the White Sox, but I don't mind the Cubs. I mean, if they are like in first place and the White Sox are horrible, and I don't really, but the thing is, I don't have time to watch sports anymore. So it's not like I'm emotionally involved, but if like the White Sox, if the Cubs are winning, like, I don't care. It's better if the White Sox are, but, and I know you're probably Cardinals, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I've actually been down there. I've seen the Cardinals play. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. I've seen them play a number of times. We've gone to St. Louis. There was one year I went down to St. Louis like 3 times just to watch the Cardinals play. I'm not really a huge Cardinals fan, but I like the stadium. So
sure. Look at Danikin Aquatics. Cubbies all the way. Can someone please time him out? Thank you. Kenny E. What's your favorite shoe ever?
My favorite shoe? I got a pair of Columbia like hiking shoes, and they're the most comfortable shoes I've ever put on my feet. Like on the face of the earth, they're starting to tear a little bit and it's starting to stress me out because I'm like, I hope they still sell this exact brand shoe, because if they do, I'm going to need to go and rebuy them.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But it's funny when you said that. Have you ever seen the movie I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker?
Absolutely.
Where he walks out with the goldfish in his heels?
Yes. And
if I could get any shoe, I'm telling you, I would love to have those shoes. I would wear those to an aquashella. I'd probably have to put fake goldfish in them because I don't want to get anybody angry with me, but
they would be pissed. But let's say you knew how to take care of them in that thing. Well,
there's like a little filter.
Look, yeah, if anybody would do it, it would be you, because you would do it right.
Yeah, it's like a pass-through filter. I've got a big backpack with water. No, I
wear a size 14, so that fish might be all right on some of my glass. Goldfish shoes. They started making fun of him. He broke them. The fish all on the ground. Oh my God, I love that. Very good. Very good. Okay. What's your favorite emoji to use?
Looking at my phone, favorite emoji. I'm lazy. I just use a stupid smiley face one that comes on Apple, but always shows his front teeth, and I think it looks stupid anyway. So why don't they make the emoji smiley face that just has the regular smile instead of the one where the 2 front teeth are sticking out? It looks so stupid.
Android has a regular smiley face like that for all you Apple users out there.
Yeah, so I just use the smiley face. I'm boring in that way.
I would ask you your favorite school subject, but yours, just like mine, is bio.
Yep.
What is your fish tuber that you mostly watch? And I like this question because as a fish tuber, you probably don't almost watch a lot of fish tube, because on your downtime, you kind of want to watch some other stuff. But
that's exactly true.
Right.
And I remember listening to people who were creators, and it was interesting because a couple of times I'd heard before I'd ever made a YouTube video, when you become a creator, you almost stop consuming. You flip in certain ways. And I don't watch a lot of fish tube because when I come up with videos, I want the videos to be something where I can say, oh, I thought of this, even though it's let's face it, 99.999% of stuff that's going to be out there in the next year has already been done, sure, including everything I'm going to do.
Sure.
But I want my own spin. I want my own take. I don't really want to be influenced by what other people are saying. I just want it to be from my experience. So I don't watch a lot of fish tube. I would say when I do, usually maybe I'll definitely do like a KG Tropicals live stream.
Sure.
Simply Beta is another one that I'll watch from time to time. But other than that, I don't watch a lot of it. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
I understand. If you are on YouTube and not watching fish, what do you watch?
So one of the things that I'm really obsessed about, it's actually kind of scary the amount of time I have put into watching, is economics. I love macroeconomics. I mean, I am absolutely obsessed with it. I've been probably for the last year and a half, everything I can get my hands on. I probably read 20 books on the subject. I've gone crazy. And part of it is we've been at home. I've been at home. I've been teaching from home now for
sure,
over a year.
Sure.
So there's a vacuum there, and that vacuum just got sucked in and filled with macroeconomic stuff on YouTube. So
absolutely,
like George Gammon and stuff. It's crazy.
Very nice.
So.
Favorite seafood?
Probably anything that doesn't taste like seafood. So,
Okay.
what is it that we eat? I don't remember what fish. It's like a halibut, I think, but it basically borderline doesn't taste like seafood. Because I don't really like a really fishy taste to stuff. So, tuna though. I can eat tuna. So let's say tuna. That
Okay.
counts.
All right, we'll work with tuna. Yeah. Favorite pizza topping?
Sausage. I'm a simple man. Requires simple things. Cheese and sausage, and I'm good.
Now, in Chicago, does that change? Is your favorite Chicagoan food? Chicagoan? What are you guys? Chicagans?
I guess we're Chicagoans. Well, yeah, we're out. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
No, it doesn't change. The one thing that the big debate is deep dish or regular. I don't like deep dish because it's just too messy and it's too hot when it first comes out. So when pizza comes out in a box, it should be you make your pizza pyramid on your plate, right? Round one is the pizza pyramid, and you're just shoveling in as fast as you can.
Okay.
You need to eat it fast enough so that you don't till your body doesn't realize it's full until you've consumed most of the pizza. You can't do that with deep dish. You'll choke on the cheese.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'm not trying to die over here eating a deep dish pizza too fast. So it's got to go regular.
Do pineapples belong on pizza?
Not on mine, they don't.
Not a fan of the Hawaiian style, huh?
No.
Okay. All right. I love it. Way to level up. Now this is happening to you.
Oh boy. All right.
Now they really get hard.
Okay.
But we're still waiting on that celebrity crush.
I know, and I'm still thinking.
Getting off on that.
Yeah.
Not going to get off on that. I do like this question that I would like for you to answer real quick before we jump into the this or that. Is there a product review that disappointed after a while?
Product review that disappointed after a while.
A product that you probably had told people that was awesome, and then you were like, Well,
no, only because the way I do product reviews is I'll do an unboxing where I will do my initial impressions.
Okay.
And then I won't do another one for about a year. So I'll do what is an initial unboxing, and then I'll do a long-term review. So by the time I get to the long-term review, I feel like
you figured it out.
I've shared all of the surprises, like, oh yeah, this thing does this, and it'll shut off after this many hours, or this filter stops sucking up water, or this thing gets a little noisier. But I haven't had anything. The closest that would come to is I did the original Phoenix Stingray light reviews, and then in the last year I've had a couple go down. Okay. But considering how many I had in the fish room, at one point they were almost the only light I was running in the fish room. When you start looking at the percentages, it's like it was a pretty low percentage. So, but for the most part, I can tell right away. There's a lot of products where I've looked at, I'm like, this is garbage. I'm not even going to waste people's time talking about this thing and promoting it and even getting it out there. I only want the name to be out there. So if I think that of a product, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not giving this any time at all. So, yeah.
Very nice. Well, here we are.
All right.
Hot or cold?
For what? Temperature? Cold.
There we go.
Yeah.
Bath or shower?
Shower. Because I'm a guy.
Short or tall?
Tall.
Okay. Goldfish or betta?
Betta.
Betta or killie?
Still betta.
Betta or guppy?
Still betta.
Okay. All right. Arapaima or alligator gar?
Arapaima.
Mammals or reptiles?
Mammals. Because someday I'm going to have a pet hyena. I don't know how this is going to happen. I may have to move out of the country to do it, but people have them. I've seen people in Africa, they have pet hyenas, like for real. I'm getting one. Could you imagine what it would be like?
In Chicago, you're going to keep.
Could you imagine if you walked into a house thinking you were going to cause some issue and your pet hyena was over there cackling at the thing, at the bad guy?
Okay. So you are aware that those things have a bite that could crush your ankle, like.
That's the whole idea. I'm not saying this is a good idea. I'm just saying it's an idea that I've had.
It's going to happen, though. You're going to be the male Harley Quinn.
I don't know what's going to happen, but you might see me one day like, what happened to your arm? I tried the pet hyena. It was a little puppy thing, and it bit off my arm. I had to send it back.
Oh, my God. Starburst or Skittles?
Ugh. If I have to, I'll eat a Starburst, I suppose.
Okay. All right. M&M's or Reese's?
Reese's.
Okay. A great movie or a great show?
Great movie.
Okay. All right. Tacos or burgers?
Probably burgers.
Okay. All right.
Unless it's Tuesday.
Okay. Then it's Taco Tuesday.
That's right.
We already know bacon or sausage.
Well, that's got to be bacon.
But you like sausage on your pizza?
I have it. If you're just eating stuff like in a part of a breakfast thing, I can double fist bacon. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The pig or the cow?
Cow.
Mornings or nights?
Mornings.
Breakfast for dinner or dinner for dinner?
Probably dinner for dinner.
Okay. All right. Weekdays or weekends?
Weekends.
YouTube or TikTok?
What's TikTok? 47 years old, man. I don't belong on TikTok.
Look, so YouTube added in shorts to kind of combat with the TikTok crowd. What do you think about it?
I think that's better because at least then you don't have adults trying to act like teenagers, because at least on a short you can kind of get away with it.
Sure.
But I'll talk to some of my students. I'm sure you do too, being a teacher. And it's like, I talk to the students. They're like, yeah, I don't know about adults doing TikTok. They just, that's their thing. It's like teenagers, if they were on Facebook, like, what are you doing on Facebook?
Yeah. Yeah. At the end of the, before the COVID hit, at the end of the year, my kids had did a whole TikTok line. And then I was in the back and I just kind of jumped in and it was like, oh man, you ruined it. Now we got to do it all over again, Mr. Clark. I was like, man, forget you kids, man. I just made it hot.
Right.
Disney World or Universal Studios?
Probably Universal Studios.
Yeah, that's what you would say until you hear my story.
Yeah.
Hot coffee or iced coffee?
Neither. You couldn't pay me enough to drink coffee. I hate it.
Are you serious?
Can't. One time, my
wife
wife was going to pay me $5. I think we were still dating at the time, to drink like a sip of coffee, and I had to swallow it, and I put it in my mouth, and I had to spit it right back out in the sink. And I lost $5.
Wow.
It's terrible.
Wow.
Yep.
What do you drink to jumpstart your morning?
Water, orange juice. Yeah, that's all I need.
Okay. All right. I like some of these. Bruce Willis or Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Bruce Willis.
You got to get Bruce Willie, baby. Alien or Predator?
Alien.
Okay.
I was definitely one of the guys that was rooting for the aliens in Alien versus Predator.
Okay. All right. Mustard or ketchup?
Mustard. Hot
sauce or mild?
Hot.
Very nice. I love it. Great questions from the chat. Like that. Beach sand or mountaintops?
I go mountaintops.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. You like biting into the York peppermint patty and on the Alps, huh?
That's right.
Brains or body?
Oh man, you got to choose.
Yeah, you got to. Sorry.
I'm gonna have to. Long term, I got to go brains because the body always fades.
Okay. All right. Very nice. You rather be a little late or rather be super early?
Early. My whole family knows. Everybody who knows me knows. I need to be somewhere waiting 10 minutes before I need to be there. And if I'm not, I'm not a good person to be around.
There it is. Fish sticks or nuggets?
Chicken nuggets?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, chicken nuggets.
Okay. All the way, huh?
Yeah.
No Vandy camps for you, huh?
No.
So yeah, you guys have. So Quick Trip or mobile?
Quick Trip or Mobile?
Gas station.
Probably a Mobile.
Okay. All right. CVS or Walgreens?
Walgreens.
French fries or tater tots?
Tater tots. It just makes my day.
Thank you so much. I love tater tots. If they have a choice I go to Sonic's just to get the cheesy tots.
Oh, yeah. Good stuff. They're like little hash browns, only in a fun little bite size.
You can't, how can you not love that? Buffy or Blade?
Blade.
Mm-hmm. Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter?
I don't know. Probably Mortal Kombat.
Okay. All right. Mario or Luigi?
Mario.
Mario or Yoshi?
Mario, because I don't know who Yoshi is.
Yoshi's the little dinosaur Mario rides on.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Mario.
Oh, Mario.
Okay. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Lois Lane or Mary Jane?
Well, it depends on what movie we're talking about here because they keep representing them differently, but I'm going to have to go Mary Jane.
All right. I'm with you on that. Cash or credit?
Cash.
Plane, train, or car?
Car.
Home cooked meal or go out?
Home cooked.
Okay. Pac-Man or Donkey Kong?
Whew. Probably Pac-Man.
Okay. All right. Live plants or fake ones?
Live.
Okay. Bikes or race cars?
Bikes. I had a sweet 1994 FCR 1000.
Oh.
It was rumored that thing did 174 and a quarter miles an hour. That was the rumor.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. So that makes this question more horsepower or better gas mileage?
Horsepower. Gas mileage.
You can ask Tim the Toolman Taylor. Horsepower, more power.
Yeah.
All right. Well, now this is happening to you.
Uh-oh.
Remember that from Excite Bike starting it off. All right. So we are into the last stretch. It's called Fill It In.
All right.
Fill it in. The worst job I ever had was
Working at Pizza Hut.
Really?
In the summertime.
Okay.
It was horrible. It was hot. It was not a ugh. No, thank you.
Okay. Ben Ochart was a paper boy when I had him on a couple of weeks ago.
Nice.
Hilarious. Actually, I think that was this is next question. I don't think that was his worst job. But what was your worst job was Pizza Hut. What was your first job ever?
My first job was a busboy at a restaurant. That wasn't fun either, but it was all right.
Okay. All right. Name of your first fish, or the first fish you ever named.
Yeah, the goldfish that was missing an eye, I named him Popeye.
There it is.
Yeah.
Okay. If I could star and remake any movie, it would be what?
Remake any movie
And star in it.
and star in it?
Yeah.
Oh, then I'd probably have to do Star Wars, the original.
Okay. All right. You would be Luke?
Heck yeah.
I think Ben Ochart was Fifth Element, and he would be Corbin Dallas, Bruce Willie.
Nice.
Bruce Willie
Now,
fan.
if you could have the real powers, then I would want to be an Iron Man and have the Iron Man suit.
Of course you would.
Yeah.
Of course you would. By far the best vacation spot is?
Whew. Back in the old days, I really liked San Diego. That was one of my favorite places to go. More recently, I would say probably we were in Fort Myers. We've been there a couple times in the last few years. I like that too.
Okay. I have an auntie in San Diego. Love it. Love San Diego. If you could create your dream tank, give me the tank size and what you would stock it with. What would it look like?
So the dream tank would have to go in a garage because it's the only way it's going to get into a living quarters. It would probably, I think I figured it out one time. It was somewhere around 20 feet long, maybe 3 feet wide, and about 3 feet tall. And I think, if memory serves me correctly, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of at least 2,500 gallons or something like that.
Okay.
What would I put in it? what I really want are those little Chanabara, those snakehead fish that are basically not allowed. We're not allowed to have them, but that's what I would want. If I can't have those because I don't want to break the law, I probably do a giant South American themed tank. You'd have discus and all kinds of tetras, and just it would be crazy planted. There'd be big giant plants and trees coming out of the top. It'd be cool.
Very cool. Very cool. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. You notice a breeding pair in your tank. What do you do?
In a community tank, if there's a breeding pair, I would. Depends on what else is in there. Separate them. So if that means it's easier to get them out of the tank and into a new tank, I'll do that. If it's easier or not impossible to get the other inhabitants out, I might do that instead. So I prefer to leave the breeding pair in the tank, but if I can't, I'll get them out. If I want to keep the fry. I don't want to keep the fry, leave them in there, let them have babies. They'll all go missing within a week.
Okay. Yep. All right. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. The parents are eating the babies. What do you do?
Most of the time, I just remove the parents if I can, or I catch as many fry out as I can. There have been times where with Severum fry and sometimes the Geophagus, where if I see them, I'll just take a net, scoop out 75% of them, let the parents care for the other 25%, which they'll still do, but you're going to most likely lose them in a community tank, and then grow out the fry in a 5-gallon or a 10-gallon.
Okay. All right. Have you noticed with some of the breeding pairs, like angels, they take care of their young? What is the shelf life for that? Like, because I haven't had, with African cichlids, I take the mother out, she spits, I leave her in there for maybe a couple weeks, and then I take her out before she starts chomping at the bit. But with some of these longer good parents, you're talking about your angels, maybe your Dovi, whatever. What is how long do they take care of those kids?
Usually, at least in my experience, I don't see a lot of issues until they try to breed again. And then once they breed again, it's like, all right, all the other ones, you should be out of here by now. And then they can get aggressive towards the other fish. So that's usually when the issue arises.
All right. Yeah. All right. If you got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. You got to fish with Popeye. What do you do?
Depends on, one, I test water. So whenever there's something, especially like Popeye or cloudy eyes, test the water, find out what the cause is. Because if you don't know the cause, you can treat all you want. The problem's not going away. So do you have ammonia? Do you have nitrite? Do you have high nitrates? What's going on there? And if those things are okay with the Popeye, if you can remove the fish, that's one case where, generally speaking, if it's just one fish and they're showing issues, then you can use the antibiotics to try to treat that. But start with the water.
Okay. Yeah. All right. If you got a problem, I'll solve it. Notice a bully in the tank. First thing you do is.
So notice a bully and then understanding why it's happening are two different things. So I would probably spend a lot of time observing that tank. Who's being bullied? Who's the bully? What are the dynamics? Because sometimes you'll notice a bully in the tank that's only a bully because they have a certain territory, but outside of that territory, it's not a problem. So if you've got a large tank, like let's say a 75-gallon, and your bully is a German blue ram over there in the corner, but he only goes maybe 12 inches, 13, 14 inches out of that little range, and then he leaves everybody alone, that's one thing. If you've got somebody who's just constantly, like one time I had an OB cichlid in a 150 that was just relentlessly chasing everybody and pushing everybody into corners, he's gone. He's out.
Gotcha.
Because there's no fixing. There's no fixing that. There's no timeout. I did a video about that. Oh, just give him a timeout. I have never, maybe some of you have, but I have never seen that actually work. Where the timeout's like, oh yeah, I put the fish back in. He was perfectly behaved. So usually you have to remove him. And then no, especially if you're dealing with cichlids, somebody else is going to take the place as the head boss of the tank. Yeah. And what you're hoping for is that fish isn't as brutal as the one you just removed.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a blueberry OB, and they were like, take them out for a little while. I was like, how long is a little while? A couple of days, and then change the decor. Okay, all right. You take him out, then the one that he was probably picking on, because since he's big also, now he's going hard. Now you've got 3 bullies outside of your tank. And you're like,
Yep.
you
Like
just
maybe I'll just forget this whole cichlid tank thing and go back to keeping live bears.
right. Yeah. You notice that maybe your fish has a burn, possibly from the heater. What do you do?
So for a fish to get burned from a heater, it would almost have to be, that's not actually very easy to do. To get a fish that gets burned by a heater. I would imagine the scaleless fish, like maybe some of the loaches, might be more prone to that. But
I had a Cichlids cat that looked like he got, it was all on the side, and I was trying to figure out what the heck happened to him. I don't know if he had gotten into a fight, and then I was thinking maybe it was the heater. So I was like, is that heater on fire? Is that what the heck is going on?
Because when you have a heater in water, I mean, it doesn't get that hot because the water instantly disperses that heat throughout the tank, especially if you got any kind of flow in there. So it would almost have to be something like you had a fish that was sick or got wedged in between the heater and the glass. That maybe could happen.
Okay.
If that happens, then you've got, I guess, a couple options. One would be if the fish can withstand salt. So like a Cichlids cat, that's no problem. You just take them out, chuck in some salt. Maybe you throw in some like stress coat or something that's going to give them a little bit more mucus. Mm-hmm. If it looks like it's healing, great. If you're starting to see any infections, then you might have to use an antibiotic, but that's probably the way I would go. But the only way I said it happened is if it got itself wedged in there. And even then, I don't know if it would get hot enough to, maybe it would, but that's what I would do.
Okay. All right. If you got a problem, I'll solve it. You notice ick in your tank. First thing you do.
Temperatures go up, salt goes in, and the meds go in ASAP. The longer you put those 3 things off, the harder it's going to be to treat. If you notice a couple spots and you up your, if the fish can handle the higher temperatures, and if you've got a situation where you can do salt, most tanks, even 1 tablespoon per 10 gallons is probably going to be okay, even with plants, even with your more salt sensitive fish. Like if I got African cichlids and they're having issues, 1 tablespoon per 2.5 to 3 gallons, temperatures going up to 84.
Absolutely.
Dumping in the ICX. Usually if I catch it early enough within 3 days, I don't see any more spots. Leave all that stuff as is for another week at least. Problem solved.
There it is. Yeah. Absolutely. You notice fry in your tank, but you don't have another tank to put them in. You've got $25 on you. What do you do?
I run to Lowe's. I grab a 30-gallon tote for $9. Fill it up, throw a cycled sponge filter in there, and there you go. Simple
as that. Look at that. Look how quick the answers come. You notice a tank leak. What do you do?
Depends on where it's leaking from. If it's leaking from the top, if it's leaking from the top 25%, I'm just going to lower the water for now. Mm-hmm. Right? Understanding that could still, the pressure could make it worse. But if it's from the bottom, then again, you're at a situation where you're not going to leave that thing go, especially if it's in a normal room with carpet and stuff. So empty it out. Fish go in 30-gallon buckets. I've had a 75-gallon leak on me before, a slow leak. I took all the fish, put them in 30-gallon totes with sponge filters. Now, again, we have an advantage because our fish room is heating. The whole room is heated, so I didn't have to throw individual heaters in there, but I had the air, the sponge filters going in there. It's not fun. Empty out the tank, get everything out, pull it out, throw a new one in there. All the filters were still cycled. They were only in there for a few hours. Right back in they go.
Outstanding. Well, people, he freaking did it, man. He went through that like a champion.
Sweet.
A hot spot. You went ahead and heated it up. It got hot, and you were in there.
Nice.
You still didn't answer your celebrity crush. Do you have one?
I don't really anymore. I suppose when I was younger, maybe like Adriana Lima, Selma Hayek.
Okay, those are good crushes. Yeah. There you go. Like Jessica Rabbit.
Is that even a real person?
Whoever you had a crush on when you were
when I was a little kid, Miss Piggy.
I don't know. When I was 13, Jessica did it for me. Yeah.
Wasn't she a cartoon
rabbit? How is she a rabbit? This is not fair. Oh man. we went over our time. I don't like to take a lot of people's time, but it was a blast. I know we had a couple of questions in here. If you don't mind, maybe a few minutes, maybe we can throw some in at you.
Sure.
Everybody's laughing at Miss Piggy. I saw one in here real quick, and I'm about to thank a lot of people for coming on in. No, that's an Apple phone. Let's see. Look, I'm not going back up. Anybody got any quick questions? Just throw them in right now while we have Jason for a few minutes before we let him go, man. Oh, man. Oh, I still was supposed to tell my story. You know what? While you guys are putting those in, I'll have to tell the story. Jason's already heard it. For those of you guys that saw my premiere at the end, the worst day of my life, when I went to Hogwarts and Universal Studios. First of all, it was sweltering hot at Aquashella. I'm talking about when you walk out of the venue, the heat hits you right in the mouth. Humidity is ridiculous. I can't even, right? So that's me walking to Universal Studios. First, I took a lift over, and I'm walking, and I'm hot, and it cost me $140, just me by myself. Thought I would be able to, kind of skeet by with maybe a Six Flags ticket, like a $68, $69 maybe. No. So I'm walking, and of course, all of the Harry Potter stuff is all the way in the back of the park. So I'm walking, I'm hot, I'm wet, I'm sweating. I've got a towel, I've got shades. It's terrible. I'm passing by all of these different, the Spider-Man, the King Kong. Oh yeah, hey, I gotta make it there, right? Finally, I make it to Diagon Alley, and I'm home. I'm like, man, this is freaking awesome, right? Is there a fish that Joanna won't allow him to keep?
No, I think for the most part, if I wanted, she probably wouldn't care. I don't think she'd be into piranhas, but other than that, she's pretty open to what I want to do.
Okay, all right. Fish that you've had in the past but missed the most?
Purple spot goby, one of the coolest fish that I had. I had it probably 25 years ago. It got pretty decent size, and it had this giant mouth. It would just sit there at the bottom of the tank. Nobody messed with it. I think I had him with like a Jack Dempsey and convicts, and they all just left him alone because he was like, I have a giant mouth, and I could probably eat some of the fish in this tank. So really cool.
If you could build a new tank room, what would he do differently?
If I was going to do it now, knowing that my boys are getting older, I would have an auto water change in that system because it's going to have to happen. So at some point, my children are going to get older. They're going to go to college. They're going to move out. And then I'm not going to maintain 70 tanks. So that will have to happen.
Very nice. Yeah. Back to the story. Walk in there, finally get to Diagon Alley. I see all these kids. They have full garb on. Either they're from Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, or whatever they're from. They're doing the wand thing in the windows. The windows are moving if they're doing the wand stuff perfectly. I'm like, this is awesome. I see two lines, boom, bow. One is if you have an express pass, and one is if you didn't. Of course, the one with the express pass had nobody in it. I go through the express pass line. Did I have an express pass? No, I did not. I go through the line. The lady says, do you have your express pass? Yeah. I go through. They weren't checking, so I just kept it going. I go all the way through. I'm passing by all the stuff. They got the paintings that talk to you, same thing that they did. I'm like, I'm ready, right? I get there to where it's almost time for you to get into the car, and the lady is checking your express ticket, right? She was like, it was like 4 people ahead of me, so she's just lazily beep, beep, beep. Then I get there. Where's your express ticket? I was like, oh, was this the express line? I must have gotten in the wrong line. She's like, go ahead. Sweet. I go through the express line, right? And I'm getting ready to get into the car. The car is egg shaped that they sit you in so that you can ride the ride. The lady looks at me up and down and she says, Okay, I'm gonna need you to come over here to the left. To the left was a sample car for people to sit in who they think, may have some issues to get in. So I'm 6'4.5". I'm broad shouldered and tall, but I'm also chunky. All right. I'm like 290 pounds, 285, whatever. So I get ready to sit in, and already when I get in, my shoulders do this. Now these are the sides of the car, and I'm already like this. For some reason, the car is deeper in the back. Like it's cut like an egg shape. So when I'm sitting in it, I'm like, so then I try to go to the side and get this. So then I'm like, okay, I'm in. And so she says, well, no, you still have to have the lap bar that comes down here. So now pull it down. Just pull it down. They're like, sir, we don't pull it down. So she's pulling the thing down. It stops here. And I'm like, hey, just buckle it up. Sir, can you breathe? I'm breathing. You hear me breathing? And so she's pushing it. It's not going. I was like, let me suck it in. Let me suck it in. Hold on. That does nothing but inflate my chest, which pushes the thing out a little bit more. So I just tell the lady, kick it on me. She's like, sir, I don't think that you're going to be able to. I get out a whole bunch of words that should not have been used towards innocent people. I cannot believe that I came this long way, ripping wet and sweating, missing like all of the stuff, and I was defeated. So I make the walk of shame back towards the beginning of the park because I didn't want to ride anything. I just was upset. I didn't want to ride it, and I see the Hagrid ride. Now the Hagrid ride looks a little bit different because you can either sit on the motorcycle part or you could sit on the side, right? So I was like, I'm definitely not going to sit in the sidecar because I don't want that kind of embarrassment again. So I was like, let me sit on the motorcycle part where I could kind of sit up. So now this lap bar is supposed to push down this way. So he said, you know what? I said, before I go into this line, do you have a sample, cart for me to try out before I get into the line? It was like, yeah, it's one right there. So I get on there and I pull it back. Now it said it's going to stay red. And then when it flashes green, it's a go. I said, okay. I'm pulling. It gets somewhere hung up in between my gut and my pumpa or my belly button and maybe a love handle or something. So I'm getting it and I'm tugging on him like, hey man, when does it go red? He was like, I said, when does it go green? He said, it goes green when it goes green, when you're good. I'm so like, I'm pulling. I was like, hey man, can you help? Like, can you kick it up under me, like underneath the. He's like, you're not going to be able to ride it. So you're talking about $140, a lot of walking in Orlando heat, mad black guy. I was upset. I was so upset. I'm walking back to the front. I'm just utterly, I spent money on the lift. A lot of money was I just gave away. Like it sucked. So what is somebody in my position and upset to do? Well, I go to guest relations because I got to get something out of this deal. Look, let me tell you something. I'm waiting in guest relations. Sir, how can I help you? So I just got here maybe like 2 hours ago. Didn't write on anything. All I did was go down to Hogwarts, and you guys don't know what you're doing down there because you said it's for an average person, and I'm average kind of. You guys should do an average person that's been in the pandemic for a year and a half. Like average person now, they're fat people. You guys have got to do something better. And they were like, sir, what is it? I said, I paid $140. I walked there and I walked back. I haven't been there that long. Well, sir, can I have your ticket? Boom, get her a ticket. She gets the ticket. She says, is it just you? Yeah, it's just me. Hey, listen, Listen, let me tell you something. Between me and you, lady, you guys got a lot of money out here in this park. A whole lot. If you're charging $140 just for one person, there's a lot of money you got in there. You can give me $140. We don't have to say anything. It's just me. You know what I'm saying? You're not losing anything here. She looks and she starts typing. I'm thinking it's a go. She's typing and she's like, okay, well, let's see what we can do for you. I'm sorry you had such a bad experience. So yeah, come on. She gives me a card with a number on it. This not 140. What is this? What is this? She said, that's a ticket back into the park next time. I said, next time? She's like, not for tomorrow. You know, for any time that you want to come back at any park, that is your personal number, and it will allow you to get a ticket and 2 other attractions. And I'm sitting there like, lady, I'm never coming back. I'm not coming back. You just gave me a, hey, lose weight ticket. Take this ticket with your fat ass and look, come back when you've dieted to get on the freaking ride. I'll burn this place down, ma'am. Look, let me tell you something. This is not right. So I got a lose weight coupon and possibly come back. So worst trip ever. Worst trip ever. So yeah, man. Yeah.
But you're here. That's all that matters.
That is. Jason, thank you for coming through.
You.
I appreciate you. This is going to be one for the ages for my channel, and I thank you for coming on. It was great meeting you down in Aquashella. It's great talking to a fellow biology person and someone with a great sense of humor. You're a lot of fun, man. And even if I don't hit, you know, we have Aquashella coming up in Chicago. What dates are those?
That's what is it, like August of somewhere in the 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. I don't remember the exact date, but it's yeah, it's that around that time, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. Maybe 12th, 13th. I don't remember, but
so Aquashella is in Chicago, 13th, 14th, 15th, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Make sure that you guys Google it, and if you can make it up there, it'll be a whole shebang bang. It'll be a lot of fun. Jason will definitely be there.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to try to make my way there. Even if I don't, I now know where Jason is. He's a friend of the channel. We'll talk, and I got to get up there, and maybe even for a taste of Chicago, we can meet up sometime and kick it, man. That'll be fun.
Very cool. Very cool.
Up next, you guys, on the 19th, I have Zenzo from Tazawa Tanks. He will be on in the hot spot, in the live hot spot. I just finished talking to him, and Jason, he asked me, well, I told him I was going to ask you this question to see what he says. And he says he already knows what you're going to say. And you better say what he thinks he's going to say. And the question is this, Jason.
Okay.
Who is more fit between you and Tazawa Tanks?
I think he's got me.
What?
Yeah, I do. I think he's got me by a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
I think I might be a year older than him, too, though, so that might have something to do with it.
Okay. All right. All right.
He's a fit dude. He is.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask him the same thing when he comes up and make sure that that's what he says. But, you know.
Oh, yeah.
I said I'm going to ask him.
Hopefully one time. I mean, it would be cool because if he comes here in Chicago, my gym is not that far from here. So it'd be fun to tell him. I said it'd be fun to hit a workout if he comes this way, because the gym I go to is pretty hardcore. So he'd like it.
Very nice. Yeah. So Zenzo will be on the 19th. And the week after that, I believe, is the 26th. I will have Ryan from Wild Fish Tanks. He will be on. So should be an enjoyable time. So you guys stay tuned. Make sure you ding the bell. Make sure you hit the like button. Stay tuned with me. And more stuff to come. I want to thank everybody in the chat with these great questions, these great yes or no answers for that I used for Jason. This was awesome. Fish Tropics, Mary Page, HEPA Aquatics, Lonnie, aka Whip's World, All of my mods, Aquafunk, Aquatics, Monica Lynn, everybody who came over from Jason's Primetime Aquatics. Thank you guys for coming through. I really appreciate you all, man. Triple J, Mickey M. Hey, listen, thank you all. Come on back Monday, 9 p.m. We'll have something else for you right here on the channel. I appreciate you all. Jason, I will see you backstage in a second. I'm in this stream. Anything you would like to say, last words?
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you having me on tonight. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. So I was glad to hang out with everybody here. So
very good.
Everybody has a great week.
All right. You heard it there. And I'm out. Appreciate you all. Peace.